Yo, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Booty Boy Wrestling fan interview. Today, I'm joined by my very special guest, one of the greatest ring announcer voices in the whole region of New England, Rich Palladino. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited that we finally got this figured out because we had a little technical difficulties before.
That's just because I'm old and I break technology. That's all.
How are you doing during this pandemic? Are you safe, healthy, all that?
Yeah. I mean, as safe as I can be. I mean, I work from home anyways, so I'm used to that. Just not used to doing it with my wife upstairs, home all day, and my 14-year-old twins. Homeschooling and two dogs, two kids, and my wife. So it's a little bit my fortress of solitude has been broken down. So, but other than that, I'm fine. Staying safe. I've had one COVID test, so came back negative. So I got that
That's
going
good.
for me. Yeah.
Now, you work with Limitless Wrestling and many other companies like Beyond, Chaotic. Now, Limitless Wrestling, they have done a thing called The Road on IWTV. Do you feel like you've been replaced by Johnny Torres as the ring announcer?
Absolutely not, because at this stage of my career, I really to I think those are all mostly recorded in Orono, and that's a good like 4 or 5 hour drive for me. And I think I'm after almost 27 years. Yeah, I'm happy with Johnny Torres doing it. That's my buddy Miyagi. I know Ethan Scott helps out up there too. So no, I don't feel replaced. I've been in touch with Randy anyways. We're just waiting for the world to open back up so can actually do my thing, hopefully in Yarmouth or Portland or wherever we are. So,
Now, how long have you been in the wrestling business for?
uh, this month will be 27 years.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
yeah, thanks. I started my first show was in '93
Wow.
for a guy named the Boston Bad Boy Tony Rumble. So I know you've had conversations with Slick Wagner Brown. Slick
Hmm.
used to wrestle for Tony way back in the day. So that's who broke me in, and I've been fortunate enough to do it for a very, very long time.
Now, what got you into wrestling? Did you always want to be an announcer or did you want to be a pro wrestler?
I thought when I was a kid I wanted to be a pro wrestler, but I didn't have the physical skills, but I knew I could talk, and I always loved like just the ring announcer. I just felt like he commands a good ring announcer at least commands the attention of the audience. And I mean, you're probably a third of my age, but I mean, I used to watch wrestling on Saturday mornings, and I just remember I was just being drawn in by the ring announcer. And one gentleman, his name was Joe McHugh, and the other gentleman was Gary Michael Capetta, who I'm very fortunate enough to call a friend these days. So it's kind of funny how things come full circle. But I got hooked when I was probably 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old. I mean, I go back to the Bruno and Backlund days. So I'm that
Wow.
old. Yeah. So it's like when people talk about old stuff and they talk about, you know, attitude era and stuff like that, I'm like, no, that's new stuff to me. So, but yeah, I've just always been a fan, so I'm very lucky.
Now, you're pretty much one of the voices of Limitless, and like I said before, Beyond and Chaotic. Now, when you do your ring announcing, some people like to have more than one nickname of getting announced, or they have specialty things. What is your favorite thing to say when you're announcing? Like, for examples, there's Ashley Vox, who has "You Swear" every time. She's got a
Yes.
whole like bio.
Yeah.
There's other people that I can't remember, but
Yeah, and there's some that aren't even in the business anymore that had longer intros than others. But yeah, I've known Ashley for years, and I have a little index card in my binder back there. And at my age, I can't remember the stuff as much as I think I should. But I think my favorite intro to do. He hasn't been in Limitless yet, but I've worked with him a ton and beyond, and he's actually on my last Chaotic show that I ever did. And that's Nick Gage. So his intro I've got down pat, and hell, we were in New Orleans and he was asking me to do it like on Bourbon Street while we were like drinking beers and carrying on, and I was more than happy to. But yeah, so you know, it's however whatever wrestler, however they want to be introduced, and they're like, well, how do you think you should introduce me? And I'm like, it's your intro, whatever you want. So if I have to read it off a card, I read it off a card. I got the hometowns and the weights down, but when you've got like 7 or 8 nicknames, yeah, I gotta read a card. But other than that, so yeah.
So, like you said that you're drinking beers with Nick Gage on Bourbon Street. And are you saying that you can announce someone and remember their whole stats while being drunk?
I wasn't necessarily drunk at that point, but yeah, I got to tell you, and I mean, I've been like 7 months. I've done 4 shows during the pandemic. That's it. My last show was March 13th for Chaotic in Lawrence, and Josh Briggs wrestled Nick Gage in the main event, and that's when the world just shut down. So I've done 4 shows since, and I have. Most of the wrestlers, I know their hometown and weight off the top of my head because I've done it so many times. But I
Mhm.
will say the first show I did since this all started was in July in Atlantic City for Beyond. And I felt I had to look at my cards more than I ever did before because I'm out of that rhythm. Whereas I was working, I mean, for Beyond, I was working every week when we were doing Uncharted Territory. And other than that, I mean, I was still working just about every weekend. So it's just like, it's just, I thought it'd be come to me like that. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question though, yeah, I mean, most of the guys, I know their stuff off the top of my head because I've just done it so many times.
Now, who is your favorite person to ring announce for?
Oh, wow. Um, I really, like I said, I really enjoy announcing Nick Gage just because he's been around so long and he's done so much.
Mhm.
And I really get into his intro. Um, I loved announcing Anthony Green. I actually really enjoyed introducing MJF. I don't know if you remember, but Beyond Limitless did a huge show at the Portland Expo in um, in Portland, Maine. It was like 800 people, and I just added a thing or two to his intro, and he like thanked me after. Like he always calls himself Salt of the Earth. This is obviously before he went to AEW, but it was the night that he lost the Limitless title to Anthony Green, and I did his typical intro, and I said, he's the Salt of the Earth, and after he's like, that was awesome. I was like, well. I add stuff. So, I mean, those are some of my favorite guys because Anthony Green always had that extra stuff to add to it. MJF, he's better than you and you know it, or, he requests complete silence for his intro. Anything where I can enhance, you know, whether it's their heel persona or their babyface persona, anything I can do to add to that is always fun for me to do. Long
So,
answer, I know.
no, it's fine. I like it when my guests talk and talk and talk because definitely takes up the time. Because when
Yeah.
someone answers a question, it's like 2 seconds for them
Yeah.
to answer. I'm like, oh, now I gotta come up with the next one. But I'm fine with it. So,
Cool, man.
so in 3 years you will have 30 years in ring announcing. Are you gonna go for 40? Another 10?
Right now, I'm wondering if I'm going to go for 30. Yeah, I'm 51 years old. I've got 14-year-old twins. I'm doing
Wow,
it. Oh yeah, yeah.
my mom's 1 year older than you.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. Well, but I mean, you're probably close to my kid's age, right? How old are you?
16.
There you go. So I mean, yeah. I mean, so we're pretty much on the same path, me and your mom. So yeah. I mean, I want to do this forever. I think when I have no plans of saying, oh, geez, if it's 30 years, that's it, I'm done. I just want to keep going till it's no longer fun. I mean, it's not fun now because there's nothing to do. Um, but I think once the world opens back up and we get into the swing of things, I'll probably get that passion back. I've been very much off social media, very, very limited on social media since the pandemic broke out, just because for me personally, you take away something I've been doing for 27 years, it's a big lifestyle change for me. And I love my wife and my kids, but I've never been around them this much. And I've really enjoyed the extra time that I've got to spend with them. But there are times where it's just like, all right, I'm bored. The kids are in their rooms doing Xbox, and my daughter's putting makeup on her face, or chatting with her friends, and I'm just like, my wife goes to bed early and I'm like, oh wow, I should be in Portland right now doing a show or in Worcester or something. But it's just taken a lot to get used to. But I've just found myself not really wanting to be on social media as much as I used to be because 95% of my posts were hyping up the shows to, move that extra, sell that extra ticket or whatever. But um, it's just a really weird time right now. So
Now, you told us about how you got into wrestling. You were watching it since you were 8 years old, and you were more intrigued in the ring announcer. Did you ever find yourself imitating them in your living room or wherever you were watching wrestling?
Oh, yeah, I certainly did. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if I wasn't going to be a ring announcer, I was going to be a singer in a band. That was always like my mindset. Like, my dad, he's 83, but he always played in a band. He always had his own band, and he plays the accordion or he plays the keyboards, and he's a singer. And I think I got that from him. I've always wanted to be I don't mind being the center of attention. So, yeah, I would always be, you know, mimicking the ring announcer when I was a kid because that was my thing. So, um, still kind of is. So, yeah.
Now, you're also part commentator for sometimes Beyond, sometimes Chaotic, and Limitless too.
Hmm.
Um, what else are you? Announcer, commentator?
Interviewer sometimes. So your comment a little while ago about letting your guests speak because you gotta wait for that next question or what's the next thing I'm gonna phase into. It's the same thing when you're doing like a live interview or a pre-taped interview. Yeah, you love to let the talent just go on and talk as much as they can, and then you can feed off of that. But if I had to rank them, I like being a commentator. Commentary is like my least favorite because I think it's a lot harder than people realize it is. And when I'm ring announcing and commentating, it'll sound, there are probably people who watch this be like, "What are you talking about?"
Uh,
It's a lot though when you're doing both. And like sometimes I'm ringing the bell and I'm keeping time for the matches and I'm making notes and it's just it's a lot, but I've always wanted to be in this business. So to me, it's like I don't care, just pile it on. But if I could only do one for the rest of my career, it would be ring announcing. So I'm usually like Randy Carver at Limitless loves my commentary. So he's always like, whatever match you want to do, just jump in um, and I'll do one or two matches here and there. But I've been doing commentary for Chaotic for like 20 years that I've been there. I've been like the guy, but I think as I get older, I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine just doing the hometowns and weights. But yeah, it's still fun for me though, so it's cool.
now, have you ever maybe messed up on commentary? Like maybe, like you said, commentary is hard. Interviewing is hard.
Hmm.
There's each part in this business is they have their good things and bad things. Have you ever found yourself announcing their weight or height or where they're from while you're doing commentary?
Yeah, I'll always throw out the weight or a hometown or something as cheap filler for commentary. Oh, they're from here and they trained there, or this guy's 250 pounds, but his opponent's only 195, so he's got a 55-pound weight advantage. Yeah, I do that, but I do find like I am not as well versed in calling the moves or the spots or the specialties of a lot of the talent. It's a lot to digest and to try and memorize it all. So yeah, I've definitely had some screw ups here and there. I've had people say, "Oh, I'll say, you know, whatever, a plancher," and I'd be like, "No, no, that's a blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, whatever. Doesn't affect my pay, so whatever." But it's like my whole thing. I got into this to be a ring announcer. Everything else that I've done is just extra, something else to put on the resume. And every time I get behind a microphone, you learn something new, especially depending on who you're working with too. So it's every time it's a new experience. So it's always fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, this past weekend in Indianapolis, Indiana, they GCW and Fight TV did a thing called the Collective. I watched some of the events, and some people from New England were on that card. What did you think of the Collective this past weekend?
That was good. I didn't really get to see much of it. Just some clips here and there, but um, I was very happy that Christian Casanova. Um, First of all, Christian I'm a huge fan because I've known him since he was training at Chaotic.
Hmm.
So I know that he did the weekend before he did Black Label Pro for promoter Mikey Blanton, who's a friend of mine.
Yep.
He had worked ACH the weekend before, and then I know he teamed up with Tasha in a multi-tag team match. And I think he did the For the Culture. I can't remember which which events, but I know he did stuff. I know that Davey N was on Shimmer, which is awesome because I'm really glad to see her out there. And um, trying to think who else. And then Chris Dickinson, I know, fought John Moxley at Bloodsport. Not that he's a New England guy, he's a New York guy, but these are like people that I consider friends in this business. So to see them all doing stuff, and Ashley and Delmy, are the Shimmer tag champs, and Kimberly is the Shimmer champion. So, the only thing that broke my heart is when all that stuff was supposed to be in Tampa, I was supposed to do that Shimmer show. I was
Oh,
booked to do Shimmer 118, and I was devastated. I didn't really put myself out there to go to Indianapolis, especially during this time, and with COVID and everything like that. Not that any promoters were knocking down my door saying, "Hey, we're going to be in Indianapolis," but I usually do a couple of GCW shows that I had plans for. I've done Bloodsport in the past. I did last year's Bloodsport. I did both spring breaks last year in Jersey City. I did Shimmer. So these were some of the shows I was looking forward to doing again in Tampa. And when that got taken away, I was really devastated. But I think it's great. I think they did 10 or 12 different events. Effie's another guy. I know he had Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and he's a great guy that I've known for a couple of years. I know Danhausen was out there. It's just to be able to have everybody together and pull that off, albeit socially distanced. I think it's great, and I hope it's a sign of things to come in the near future.
now, when you announce, like we talked about, sometimes you add more things to it. Do you like swearing when you announce people?
um, only if it makes sense. Um, I had never actually done that before. The very first Beyond show that I ever did, they had the card put up on social media. It was American Rana 2013. It was the first time I'd ever worked for Beyond. And
Hmm.
they, say like grudge match or death match or whatever. Well, the tag match was called the FN Tag Team Match. And I remember I said to Drew Cordero, I said, "Do you want me to say the following contest is a FN Tag Team Match?" He goes, "Yeah, do it. See what happens." The place went nuts because I always try and be super professional. That's
Hmm.
not professional, and it just kind of stuck. So I think it adds a little something else to it. But on the flip side, like Chaotic, been there 20 years, we've always catered to a younger audience. And I remember talking to Chase Del Monte and Brian Fury before that match and saying, I can't say Nick effing Gage, can I? It was like, no, you can say effing, but you can't say the swear. So, yeah, I like it. The fans seem to like it. And as long as they're happy, that's all I care about. And as long as the promoter's not ticked off. So, yeah.
Hey, like you said, your pay doesn't get affected. So,
Yeah, man. I don't get deducted for each swear. If I did, I'd be in a lot of trouble on some of these shows. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've had people ask me, "Violence is Forever." Kevin Koo and Dominic Guarini. We had done a Beyond show on Thursday, and then they were up in Yarmouth, Maine for Limitless the next night. I remember we were leaving Worcester the night before, and Guarini's like, "What do we got to do to get a swear in our intro?" I'm like, "Oh, violence is for F and ever. We'll do it tomorrow," and we did, and it was awesome. So yeah, it's whatever makes them happy.
now, when you're announcing, have you ever made a mistake that you wish you could go back and fix?
Yes. I was doing a Beyond show in Worcester, and it was Brian Fury against Chris Hero. And I think Hero was in the corner to my right. And we do the old school boxing style intros like we do at Limitless. We do those at Beyond. And I had said in the corner to my left, and he was on my right. And and Chris is a dear friend of mine. And he made a point of coming out and showing me, when you take your left hand and go, "Look, L for left," it's backwards to the camera. But, he made a point of calling that out. And one time, Ayla Fox, who's AR Fox's wife, um, with no cards for no reason at all. One night in Providence, I called her Ayla Brown instead of Ayla Fox. And Ayla Brown is like, she was on American Idol, and she grew up like the next town over from where I live down here in Massachusetts. Well, you're in Massachusetts too, but Ayla Brown is like one of my daughter's favorite singers. And I introduced her as Ayla Brown, and I just wanted to die. And she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh my God." But yeah, I've had plenty of those, and like I said, as you get older, I think the bind's the first thing to go. So those are within the past few years, anyways. So yeah.
Would you say you're kind of like the Tom Brady of ring announcing?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've got longevity. I've got a nice little fan base out there. People seem to appreciate me, so I guess I'm very lucky. Um, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, I'm okay." I think I'm a pretty damn good ring announcer. Um, I would never call myself the Brady, but or the
Wait, let me
goat.
correct you.
Yes,
You're one of the best effing ring announcers.
there it is.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Yeah, I'm very. I mean, yeah, I I have a very good reputation, and what I try and bring to the table is a level of professionalism, whether I swear or not. But that's why you'll never see me do a show unless it's, something completely out of the realm. You'll never see me usually do a show without a tuxedo on because to me, the tuxedo is a symbol of my respect for professional wrestling. I love everything about this. If I swung this camera around, you saw all the stuff on my walls, and I mean, I'm a fan of this business before anything else, and I've been very fortunate. Tommy Dreamer was on the very first show I did in '93, and we're pretty good friends to this day. And I'll never forget, I said something about, when I worked for ECW, I wish I got pictures with everybody, but I was always afraid, that I'd look like a mark or whatever. And he told me a story that when ECW invaded USWA in Memphis, in the, had to be mid to late '90s, he said the very first thing he did when he was at the TV studio in Memphis was get a picture and an autograph or a picture with Lance Russell, who was the longtime play-by-play guy there. And he's like, "Yeah, don't ever be ashamed of that stuff." I said, "Well, it's too bad those ECW days are done for me, but but I love the business. I absolutely have loved it since I was a kid, and I still love it now. It blows my wife's mind because during COVID, one of my projects was I collected magazines when I was a kid since like 1979, and I've got in front of me, I've got two bookcases that are just filled with all my old magazines from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Magazines are really not a thing anymore, but and then I'll fill in some of the gaps with stuff on eBay. And she's like, "How can you possibly need more magazines?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, 1979, I'm missing February and September. I got to get them, So it's just, it's a passion. So, I hope that you have the same passion for it. And I hope, I appreciate people that appreciate pro wrestling. And it's unlike any other art form out there, I think. Whether you're in it, whether you work in it, whether you're a fan of it, I think the fan base is unique to any other kind of, art form or whatever that you may be a fan of. It's a very cool thing. So
Mhm. Now, you just mentioned that you worked with ECW.
I did, yes,
Can you
yeah.
talk
So
to us about that and like how you got
yeah,
that opportunity and what was it like?
yeah. So I worked there from '96 to early '99. Just in New England. So they would come up here and they would do shows in mostly in Massachusetts, sometimes Connecticut. But like I was saying, I knew Tommy Dreamer since 1993, and also on that first show was Taz. And I also knew the Eliminators, the late John Cronus and Perry Saturn. So when ECW started running in New England, they didn't bring up their own ring announcer. So I think the second time they had toured up here, I went to one of the shows. I knew one of the local promoters, Paul Richard. So I had a comp ticket. And when I got to Revere, Massachusetts in November '96, he had asked me if I had my tuxedo in my car. And as you know, a wrestler or announcer that goes to a show without their gear with them, so to speak, is just missing out on an opportunity. And sure enough, I did. And I got to ring announce for ECW for a show that I was just going to watch. And I did all the New England shows for about 2.5 years until the money started running out and they had somebody else doing it from backstage and whatnot. But it was an incredible run. A couple of the shows are on the WWE Network. Sometime around '97 from I think there's one from Waltham and one from Revere. But it was an amazing time and it kind of raised my stock here in New England. So I know that was many, many years before you were born, my friend. But yeah, so from 96, I'd only been in the business like 3 years. So it was a huge opportunity and it gave me a little bit of value, name value, and something I'm pretty proud of. So I got some ECW posters from shows that I did back here over my shoulder. But yeah, it was a great, great time and a tremendous opportunity. So,
Now, you worked for Limitless, ECW, Chaotic, Beyond. What other promotions have you worked for?
oh man, I did one Ring of Honor show in New York City the night that Tyler Black, aka Seth Rollins, the night that he won the title from Austin Aries. My friend Bobby Cruz was on vacation. So Adam Pierce, I think, was the booker at the time and told Bobby, "You're in charge of finding a ring announcer, and he better be good." And Bobby always said, "Is like I was like the only person that he like really trusted for an event of that magnitude." It was at um, the Manhattan Center in New York City. Um, but I mean, I've worked for other than them. I did one show for the ECWA, who does the Super 8 tournament. I did their Super 8 tournament, the 10th annual one in 2006. But other than that, it's been pretty much primarily, I dare say, every independent promotion in New England. My home has been Chaotic for over 20 years, Beyond for 7, Limitless for 4, maybe. Um, but I've worked for the XWA down in Rhode Island. I've worked for New World Wrestling Extreme, which still runs a couple shows a year in Rhode Island. But I got my start in a company called the Century Wrestling Alliance, and that was what Tony Rumble ran when I started in '93. Then they bought into the National Wrestling Alliance, so we became NWA New England. And Tony unfortunately passed away in November of '99. So it was after that that I after that they went through management changes and a bunch of different changes. That's Chaotic started up maybe a year or so later. So I started with Chaotic in September of 2000 and just celebrated 20 years without any shows to celebrate at. But I mean, I should make a list because it would be huge. Because a lot of promoters too, like everybody thinks they're a promoter, and they'll run a show and they're going to be the next big thing, and then they have one show, realize how much it actually costs to run a show, and
Mhm.
actually sell tickets and whatnot, and then they never have another show. So, but I mean, I dare say every independent promotion in New England, I've had the opportunity to work for. I've worked for Big Time Wrestling several times whenever their ring announcer can't make it. A backup there, but they're all good friends of mine. So just Northeast Wrestling, all kinds of all these big companies I've been very fortunate to work for.
Now, last year, I think it was September, it was MJF's last independent show. It was Beyond Wrestling, where all hands on deck.
Yes, sir.
Everyone else, it was on the beach, and I think it was they moved to Rhode Island for that show. It was supposed to be in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
How are you not sweaty in that tuxedo, and everyone else is in wrestling gear or shorts and tank tops, and you're in a tuxedo, and not also mention a black tuxedo.
Yeah, and you know what? I wasn't. Nobody told me I had to. In fact, when I got there, like, "You're really gonna wear that?" I'm like, "Yep." And I was pissed off because you can watch it on IWTV. So I'll get in a plug for independent wrestling television. Um, I was really pissed off because right before I went out to start the show, the button on my jacket popped off. So you'll see every match, like my jacket's like wide open, like I am now with a t-shirt or something, and that went up my ass sideways. Pardon my language. Went up my butt sideways. But um, yeah, it's just my thing. Like I try to do that. Now on the flip side, I did the two shows in Atlantic City for Beyond outside, and I wore like a Hawaiian shirt one time, and I wore a t-shirt another time. Those are different rules, but you know, and that was a great show too. All hands on deck. I wish we were able to go back there this year. I'll give you a little fun story on that one. Shark Boy was on the show, and and Drew had asked me if I would mind picking him up and taking him from the airport there outside of Providence down to Westerly where the show was. What a great guy! But when you're picking up a masked wrestler, at an airport and you don't know what he looks like without his mask on, it's kind of hard to find him. But no, it's kind of funny though. But he was just a really, really good dude, and it was one of my highlights of that. And I get to say that I announced MJF's last independent show, which was pretty awesome. So
Now, I'm assuming that you end up finding Shark Boy. Right? How long did
yes,
it take?
it wasn't long. I had told him where I'd be parked and stuff, but it was just like, I'm like, all right, this is what my car looks like. But it was kind of unnerving because I honestly had no idea what Shark Boy looked like. And I didn't know if he'd be walking around, with his Shark Boy mask on and whatnot, but he didn't. I was just like, it was very stressful. If I'm picking up somebody, and I've picked up wrestlers at airports before, but it's like I know who they are. But yeah, I had no idea. It was kind of funny. I didn't even think about it till I got there. I'm like, how am I going to know? Like, we just kind of, I think we just did, we were just like texting, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be by pole number, 8. I think the poles outside the airport were all numbered. And I'm like, if I'm not there, it's because the cops make you loop around. But finally, we found each other. So I was like, oh, this is what my car looks like. And, but it was kind of funny. But he's a great guy, though. Really good guy to travel with. So.
Now, you mentioned before that you went to an ECW show, and that's how you became the announcer because they asked if you could fill in. Would you say that your tuxedo is kind of like your Superman suit? Like you go through a telephone booth and
It
like you
absolutely,
come out?
yeah. What's funny is like if I'm at a show or if I just go to another show just to watch and hang out, people always say it's like a unicorn sighting if you see me without my tuxedo on, because that's just the way so many people are used to seeing me. So doing I've no shows this month, but November 8th I'll be back in Atlantic City at the Showboat. Actually, New Jersey can have fans indoor. I think 125 or 150 is the cap. So I'll be back in my tuxedo and I'll feel more normal than when I was doing the shows outside in a Beyond T-shirt and cargo shorts. So, but yeah, that's definitely my in case of emergency break glass. I always have it with me because you never know. You just never know. So.
Um, if you could tell the fans that are watching this, if there's a moment that people should go back and watch from Beyond Chaotic and Limitless, or even the show, what should it be and why?
Um, I'd watch American Rana. There's two things I'd watch. For Beyond, I'd watch the very first American Rana in 2013. Um, Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'd watch American Rana, the very first American Rana, because that was like the first big show they did in a big building, that Fet Music in Providence, and we had guys like Kevin Steen on the show and Eddie Edwards and Biff Busick and all these great guys. But then I would fast forward to American Rana 19, which had twice as many fans because we were at Foxwoods Resort Casino. So I think for a promotion that used to run in a warehouse in a garage in Ohio, and just to put out content for YouTube, to working in front of maybe 50 or 100 fans at an Elks Lodge, to all of a sudden being in front of 500 people at Fet Music and then 1,100 people at Foxwoods Casino. That's what I would suggest. Plus, the matches were just phenomenal from top to bottom. And then I would say the same thing for Limitless, which, started at the small hall up there in Orono. And then I would say, look at, I can't remember the name of the show, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but last year's show at the Portland Expo, there were like
Know
800.
your enemy.
What's that?
Know your
Know Your Enemy.
enemy.
There it is. Yes. Yes. And, so I'd say to watch stuff like that. And then some of the old Chaotic stuff when, you know, Chaotic, like I said, I've been with them since 2000, but guys like Kofi Kingston and Damian Sandow and, Ivar from the Viking Raiders and Sasha Banks all came out of Chaotic. And that's just to name a few. Biff Busick was there too. I'd say watch some of that old stuff too, because the one thing I've prided myself on is trying to associate myself with, you know, the best companies in New England. That's no slight on anybody else, but you know, the proof's in the pudding when you see, you know, the talent and the work rate on a lot of the shows that I'm fortunate enough to work on. So that'd be a smattering of things I'd tell you to check out for sure.
Now, when I interview wrestlers, I ask them a question about like what have they done to stay in shape, to like work out, because a lot of places are closed. What has their home gym been like? And you're an announcer, so what have you been doing to keep your vocal cords warm and ready to go?
It's funny. Like I said, I did 4 shows in the past 7 months, which is depressing. Big Time Wrestling, who I mentioned before, they're world promotion. Their offices are here in New England, in Massachusetts, but they run shows all throughout the country. They've been doing wrestling memorabilia, collectible stuff, live auctions on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. And Patrick Hewen, who's their regular ring announcer, he usually hosts them, but he has a side gig, emceeing, DJing weddings and stuff. And now as the world's starting to open back up, he hasn't been around on Friday nights. People that have wedding plans are trying to plan their weddings. So I've done the last 3 Friday nights in a row. So when you're sitting at a table, just hawking merchandise all night, that keeps your vocal cords fresh. I drink a lot of water, and I'm no athlete, but I've got a very small bench and some resistance bands behind me, and I've actually managed to drop about 10 pounds. Nothing to even talk about. But since the pandemic started, so I was like, I just don't want to be that guy that can't put on his tuxedo once the world opens back up. So, um, but yeah, so I mean, I guess just talking, So I mean, and that's it. I got, like I said, the family's at home all the time. So if I'm not yelling, at least I'm talking to them. So, that's what I've been doing to keep busy, anyways.
Now, I would definitely want to ask this question. This is on the
Sure.
spot. Um, have you ever found yourself announcing things when you're talking to your family? Like, if you gotta wake your kids up, have you ever announced them like, it's time to wake up, something like that? I don't know.
I haven't, but people always joke about stuff like that. People have always, I think people think that when I'm at home and I'm upstairs in my pajamas, I'm like, okay, we're having pancakes and sausage, you know. Um, no, but I will say that like I always say my real world outside of wrestling that know what I do, that always turns into all of a sudden I'm the MC for the company picnic. You know, what did I just do? We just did an awards thing for my company that I work for now. And my director's like, can you put on your tuxedo? We're doing this award ceremony and I want you to like host it. So I've, been very fortunate enough, like, because a lot of people get really shy and can't talk in front of people. I'm the exact opposite. So I'm like, oh, what do you need? The company I used to work for almost 20 years. I remember we were in Florida for this big corporate thing and they had live band karaoke. And I remember like the president of the company's like, can you go up there and, get this party started, go do your wrestling thing. And I'd be like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, blah, blah, blah. And I'd point out people and presidents of the company and vice presidents, and everybody just has a good laugh. It breaks the ice. And now all of a sudden, half of those vice presidents are on the stage singing like Don't Stop Believing by Journey. Um, but no, I don't really use the big voice around the house that much. When I yell at my kids, though, they know. I don't have to do that much anymore. But my son maybe more than my daughter. But it's yeah, that's a good question though.
Now, before I end these interviews, I usually like to flip the script and ask my guests if they have any questions for me.
Mm. So you're 16 years old,
Yep.
and I know you have your YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
which when I hype this up, I'll break my social media silence and mention that I did this interview, and I'll put your YouTube page out there. I've seen you got some great interviews with my friend Bear Bronson, my old
Mm-hmm.
friend Slick Wagner Brown. I saw Delmy Exo on there, and Gabby Ortiz. She's a sweetheart. All right, so yeah, what are your aspirations? Do you want to get into pro wrestling out there wherever you are? And
I'm from Springfield, Mass. So,
okay,
um,
do you know
I
Tom
had
Burke?
I'm Facebook friends with him, and
Okay,
everyone talks about him.
call him the
But,
professor. He's actually older than me. But so out there in Western Mass, are you trying to get in with a promotion and do some
um,
announcing?
I actually went to Wagner Brown's Test of Strength back in June for like an open house thing, and I got to run. It was kind of like running the ropes a little bit, and then trying to exit the ring. I didn't learn how to bump because it was just a 3 hour open house.
Sure.
So obviously you're not going to learn everything in a day, and you're not going to go out as the next great wrestler.
Hmm.
It takes time, but I didn't. My main goal is I want to be a professional wrestler, but I
Okay.
also did make my mind up, and I told my family like I want to go to college for journalism, since this counts as journalism,
Yep.
like whether it's sports interviews or something. I don't want to work as a news person. Absolutely not. Like sports news, yes, but I don't want to
Of
work on a
course.
news crew. I don't want to be like Ron Burgundy, the next anchorman. Um, but definitely, if being a wrestler doesn't work out for me, then interviewing in this business,
Hmm.
I have experience with it, so I'll keep with that. But yeah,
What about
definitely
ring
my
announcing?
uh, definitely not for me.
Okay.
It's just like I can announce people, but when everyone's staring at you in the middle of the room and you got to remember things, even if you haven't write it down, I'll probably mess up a lot.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Well,
or I'll
Wagner's a good guy, and I've known him for a very long time. So you went to the right place, and I'll give you a little tidbit here. Those fantasy camps or open houses or whatever, where you get to learn the ropes, stuff like that. Take advantage of those, because that's what Sasha Banks did in Chaotic. And what they did was they would do a fantasy camp, and whoever impressed the coaches or whatever, would get, I don't know, a discounted membership to the school or a free membership. And she outshined all the boys in whatever beginner class that she did, and that's how her career started. So you never know. But I will say, you said one very smart thing right there, and that is you're going to go to college and get your education and in journalism and whatnot, because you don't want to be that guy that didn't go to college or
mhm.
barely finished high school, and now you're a wrestler, and then you break your leg
Yeah,
and you break your neck, God forbid. So yeah,
I
so
don't
it's,
want to be Kurt Angle. So
you want to win an Olympic gold medal with a freaking neck, broken
no,
freaking
I
neck.
said I don't want to be Kurt Angle.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
um,
I mean, yeah. Oh, good for you though. I mean, I wasn't sure where you're going with this. I know we just connected on social media, and hopefully I'll see you at more shows when the world opens up. But no, it's good to have goals. I wish I had, got into it as early. I mean, I broke into the business when I was 23. So I wish I had some of the avenues. It was a different time, and I hate to sound like that, but it was much different when I was your age. It was a very secretive, you don't let anybody peek behind the curtain and all that stuff, and independents weren't like what they are now. So yeah, so I wish you all the luck in the world.
thank you. Yeah, a lot of wrestlers have told me that on past interviews. Like, I think everyone that wants to be a wrestler, they're like, "Oh, just gonna come along," and like wrestling school is the most important thing. A lot of people have told me in real life, get education first and
Yep.
then become a wrestler, because you want to always want to have that backup plan. So
Yeah, and I'm not here to say, oh, everybody should go to college and blah blah blah, because I have a great full-time job when I'm not ring announcing, but I didn't necessarily need a college degree to get it, but it's a good thing to fall back on. Because you never know where life's going to take you, but never sell that short. So it's my life lesson.
is there anything that you would like to promote on this interview?
No, I just want to. The one thing in any conversations I've had, I've done a couple of interviews during the pandemic, but I just want to encourage everybody not to support me, but to support your favorite wrestler, because there are a lot of wrestlers out there that do or were making their living as independent performers. So prowrestlingtees.com, limitlesswrestling.com, beyond wrestling, chaoticwrestling.com. If any of your favorite wrestlers are, with whoever your favorite promotion is, Test of Strength or whoever it may be, support your favorite wrestler, because buying that t-shirt, buying that DVD, that picture, that bracelet, whatever they're selling, goes a long way. And I say that every show that I do pre-pandemic is, support your favorite wrestler, because let's face it, a lot of these guys could be driving 8-10 hours just to appear wherever you're seeing them. And, you're seeing the future of the business, but, you know, help them out, help them pay their bills and stuff like that. The only things I'll promote is IWTV, Independent Wrestling TV. Limitless shows are on there. Beyond shows are on there. There's some chaotic shows on there. If you go to iwtv.live.com and put in my passcode, you get a free, I think it's a 5-day trial. Anyways, yeah, so we all have our own little codes here. I have mine like written here next to my desk so I can remember when I'm hyping
I
it.
saw you looking at it. I'm like, oh, he's looking at an index card.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just like having an index card. I mean, there's a very long HTTPS, blah, 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 but I'm not going to bore everybody with that. But if you go to IWTV, put in one fall, which, because I always say every match, one fall, like every other ring announcer in the world. But, go on there, support IWTV. Support Donovan's YouTube page, support your favorite promotions YouTube page, because that actually goes a long way eventually. And then, like I said, I'll shamelessly plug Beyond Wrestling tournament for tomorrow, the tag team edition. Sunday, November 8th will be the opening act for Game Changer Wrestling at the Showboat Casino Hotel in Atlantic City on Sunday, November the 8th, 1 p.m. And then Friday, November 20th, I think I'm going to just move to New Jersey because I'll be in Paulsboro, New Jersey at the world famous Monster Factory for another great promotion that I've been working for, a newer promotion called New England All-Star Wrestling. We have a great relationship with the folks at the Monster Factory. I know you talked to Gabby Ortiz and some of the other great folks down there. We'll be actually performing at the Monster Factory on Friday night, November 20th, and then the next night, Saturday 21st, going to have an inter-promotion show with Monster Factory against some of the New England All-Star Wrestling stars. So that's all I have. But again, support your favorite wrestler. ProWrestlingTees.com is probably the best way. You find your favorite wrestler, buy their shirt, they get the money, and it's a beautiful thing.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
My next request, I'm going to say this live.
Oh boy.
I will do the outro. Is there any way before I stop the record button you can just say you were watching Bootio's Boy in your announcing voice or something like that? You can say whatever you want.
I'd be happy to.
I'll let you do the whole outro.
Are we doing this on this part of the interview, or you want to do that separate? Yeah, you want to do it right now?
We can do it.
All right.
Keep the vocal cords warm. That's what I'm warming you up.
I've been chugging on this water. So it's Bootio's
Like there's
Boy.
Many, wrestling fan.
Okay, so Bootio's Boy, wrestling fan on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. Take a sip of water. It's too much pressure, Donovan. All right, whatever you want to do with this. Hey, everybody, this is Rich Palladino reminding you to make sure you check out Bootio's Boy wrestling fan page right here on YouTube. You'll be glad you did.
That was awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this interview. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and do what he just said. That was awesome.
Hit the subscribe button. It's easy. It's free.
Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.